that have been affected by coronavirus, it is good to show maybe a map of Kenya, plus the area affected, you can put them in red or in another color to differentiate those areas that have been affected and those that have not been affected. So you have to be very keen to when you're choosing pictures in line with your message. Then there is what we call editing pictures. When you talk about editing pictures, these are things that you know. You're going to look at cropping, you're going to look at resizing, and you're going to look at what we call retouching. So there is resizing, retouching, and cropping. Those are things that you're going to look. And the reason why you edit pictures, we edit pictures so that they can fit the page, and so that they can fit the page, and they can look what we call relevant to our stories. From there, we will look at design and typography. So we said typography and design these are similar words. And we will look at introduction. We're going to look at format, how a newspaper should look like. We're going to look at how do you balance the content, that maybe you have a picture and you have what we call, you have a picture and you have information. How do you balance this so that when somebody reads the newspaper, it doesn't look like vitu zote, picha zote na kila kitu zimepelekwa zote kwa upande wa left ama upande wa right ama katikati. The newspaper needs to be balanced in a way such that pictures are on this side, words are on this side, the other side we have words, we have pictures, so that everything balances off. So we are also going to look at techniques of subbing. Subbing is actually the work of the sub-editor. So the work of a sub-editor, the main thing that a sub-editor does is subbing. So we are all going to look at subbing. So we will look at sub-editors and the law. Michael, you can actually bear me witness. We talked about law. Na kila mahali tunakutana na sheria. So lazima sub-editor akuwe anajua sheria ambazo that governs a particular country. The sub-editor must be aware of them. The sub-editor must also be aware of the laws that governs a journalist, like the laws of what we call privacy, private privacy, like what we talk about intrusion into actually intrusion into privacy, intrusion into grief and shock. We are also going to look at what we call trespass. We are also going to look at what we call rights, what we call freedom of expression, etc., etc. These are things that we will look at. Then the legal traps. Yes. Legal traps are simply the laws. The legal traps are things that you should avoid as a journalist. Things like defamation, should be able to avoid defamation. And this type, when you're talking about defamation, you're talking about written defamation, which is libel. We are going to look at factors to consider when dealing with contempt of court. Is another legal trap. Remember what we said about contempt of court?
Yes.
When you are in semester, is it semester 2?
Two.
Yeah, tulisema contempt of court ni nini?
Yes, failing to adhere to the court.
Failing to adhere to the court. We said that it is
proceedings.
We said, if I remember very well, I told you that contempt of court is interfering with the court proceedings. And there are various ways that you can interfere with the court's proceedings. Number
Yes.
one, it is talking ill of a judge. So if you're talking ill of a certain judge, you actually mean you're actually telling us that you don't have confidence in that judge as far as the proceedings are concerned. Second is doing what? Scandalizing the court. So when you scandalize the court, no, scandalizing the judge is the one that I've said. You talk ill of a judge, it means that you don't have confidence in that judge as far as that particular court proceedings or that ruling is concerned. Number two is failing to obey the court's order. Like you have been summoned to appear before court at a certain date and at a certain time, and you fail to appear there. And the judges and their team, they are waiting for you, and you fail to appear there. That is contempt of court. So when you contempt the court, a warrant of arrest will be issued. So mahali huko utatafutwa, ushikwe, upelekwe ndani, na utapelekwa koti ukiwa na two charges. Number one, failing to appear before the court, and number two, doing what? Failing to appear before the court, and number two, you'll be charged of guilty, because sometimes you don't appear before the court because we are guilty. Then we said that lacking, if you don't respect the court, like when you're told court arise and you don't arise, picking calls in the courtroom and you've been given a warning, failure to bow when the judge and his team is entering a courtroom. Those are what we call contempt of court. Again, we said that taking photographs of the evidence that has been presented before the court without the permission of the judge, you're actually interfering with the court proceeding. Another contempt of court is when, for example, you take information from the court of a proceeding that is going on, and you write them on the newspaper and you conclude on the matter, and yet the court has not yet concluded on the matter, then you are interfering with that proceeding, and that is called contempt of court. So we will look at privileges. Privileges, we only have two: absolute privilege and qualified privilege. We look at those two. And defenses of legal traps, in case you find yourself in a legal in a legal trap, how do you defend yourself? Like if you find yourself in contempt with the court, how do you defend yourself? So there is also when to rewrite. When to rewrite means that you have to rewrite, means writing it again. Why do we rewrite a story? Because the previous one had some maybe errors. Maybe the previous one, there were some facts doing what? There were some facts missing. Maybe the previous one, it was too long, so you have to rewrite it and put it, and keep it brief, simple, and to the point. Then from there, we are going to look at what we call points to watch while rewriting. So I'm rewriting a story because of various reasons that I've just mentioned. What are the points that I should consider? Then do's and don'ts of caption writing. We are going to look at caption writing, what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. A caption is simply the message behind the picture, or the message explaining a certain picture. Like if you can take a photo of Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta having a handshake, it is always good to explain that picture there, very brief. Uhuru Kenyatta having a handshake with Raila Odinga after Just that is enough. Ama Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga having a handshake or having a cup of tea or something like that. A caption is the message that, a brief message that explains about a certain picture or photograph. Then we are going to look at topic 5, fault finders. When you talk about fault finders, it's just like we are going to look at the common mistakes in English, some of the common mistakes in English that we make that are not good in our writing. Like we are going to look at the sentence. In the sentence, you are going to look at agreement of numbers or agreement of number. But we are going to look at participle, pronouns, tenses, verbs, qualifiers, nouns, prepositions, punctuation, full stops, semicolon, and colons. Why are we looking at this? We are looking at this because you cannot write a story without knowing what a verb is. You cannot write a story without knowing what tenses are. Like you want to put a headline and you're putting it in a past tense. You need to know the tenses. And when you're talking about fault finders again, we are going to realize that some things that we do are the ones that makes our reader not to read the newspaper. Some mistakes that we do, sometimes we do them knowingly and sometimes we do them unknowingly. Mostly unknowingly, yeah? Like writing the headline in the past tense or writing the headline in present continuous tense. Or maybe, for example, putting a full stop where it is not required to be put, or a semicolon where it is not supposed to be, or putting a semicolon then starting the sentence with a capital letter, which is very wrong, or starting using a colon, and the next thing that follows after the colon is a capital letter, which is very wrong. So we are going to look at those fault finders. The same week you will be having your assignment 1. Unless there is a question up to that point.
No question.
No question. I thought you'd ask a question on fault finders.
Fault finders. I think I've engaged it somewhere.
You've engaged it somewhere. Did I teach you English for beginning journalists?
Yes.
Nilikufunza English ama ulianzia diploma?
Diploma.
And then I didn't teach you English. I thought nilikufunza English certificate. Anyway, that is it.
No.
Then topic 6, we will look at handling texts. We are going to look at the subs table. The subs table is the copy desk. It's usually called the copy desk. We're going to look at the editing functions. What are the functions of editing? Getting it right. You're going to look at checking the sources. How does a editor check the sources? Like for example, you are writing about coronavirus. How are you going to check the sources? Because you're going to get information from various sources. You get various information from sources that can be trusted and sources that cannot be trusted, including bloggers, including sites, etc. Kama saa hii unapata kuna coronavirus inaendelea. I'm looking at your WhatsApp group, semester. Is it semester 4?
Yes.
You find that there are so many people giving information about coronavirus, etc., etc. Some information they are from Tuko, others zingine ziko kwa Daily Post, etc., etc. So you should not trust such information. You should actually be able to do what? To check your sources before you publish a story. Like somebody is telling you something has happened. check the source. Who is this person telling me? Who is he?
Yeah.
Yes. Like for example, if the VC, Zitec University, tells you that we have a meeting tomorrow on Zoom platform, and somebody like your fellow student tells you tomorrow we have a meeting with the VC on Zoom, whom are you going to trust most?
Yes. The VC.
You'll trust the VC, but not the student, because the source
Yes.
is more credible than the other source, which is the student. So we are going to look at how you make your story fit to the point that you want it to. How do you make it fit? Maybe the message that you want to communicate, in short. And then you're going to look at how you order and how you shape your newspaper. Like every newspaper, we start with what we call the breaking news or the hard news stories. Then from the hard news stories, we go to soft news, etc. So we are going to see how you order. This way, we are going to look at the inverted pyramid. Yeah, inverted pyramid. And the 5 W's and a H. So we will look at the introduction. What should you put in an introduction? Then there is the delayed drop. The delayed drop is actually, the delayed drop means that you have delayed you are creating like what we call a suspense in your story. The delayed drop usually happens in feature stories. Like the feature stories usually follows, you see the news story inafuatanga what we call the inverted pyramid. Is that true?
Yes.
The news usually follows the inverted pyramid.
Yes.
Is that true? The inverted pyramid, I mean, the most important, you start with the most important to the least important. Sindio?
Yes.
So as far as feature stories are concerned, it is the opposite of the news. The feature stories follows what we call the pyramid itself. So you start with the least important to the most important. Because when you start with the most important, the reader will not read the rest. So I'm giving you an assignment, enda kwa newspaper yoyote tu, usome a feature story, uta realize that they give you the most important news huko nyuma, but not pale mbele, kwa sababu wakikupea information pale juu, chances are you will not read the rest of the story because you have the information with you. So that is what we call order and shape. So we will look at that. We are also going to look at using quotes. Hii si tumeiona kwa newspaper.
Yes.
Hii tumeiona kwa newspaper. So we are going to look at how do you use quotes, direct quotation. And why do we use them? Sometimes you use quotation marks to show the importance of the message or the relevance of that particular message. Then week 7, you're going to have our continuous assessment test 1. Then 8, you're going to have features, planning and design. How are you supposed to plan your features and how are you supposed to design them? Just that. Then the same week 9, we will have assignment 2. And we are going to look at editing and projection. So here we will look at introduction, accuracy. We're going to look at the language of the news, the style, ghostwriting. What is ghostwriting?
Ghostwriting.
Yeah.
It's like let's say someone writing and then another person taking the credit.
You can do that. Actually, it means that it is you writing the story, then somebody else just put, you know, a byline. Unajua byline
Yes.
ni nini?
Byline?
No.
No.
A byline is when sijui umekuwa ukisoma newspaper, mahali pale chini unapatanga wameandika story by Michael Wangari. Or story by Michael. Now that story by Michael is what we call a byline. So somebody writes a story, I publish the story, and then I write there David Maina and maybe XYZ ndio aliandika hiyo story. That is what we call ghostwriting. So mtu anaona, hey, David Maina si anaandika vizuri siku hizi, his stories zake ziko sawa. Kumbe kuna mtu huwa anakuandikia hiyo story. That is ghostwriting. So we have what we call reader participation, that when you're writing your story, your news stories, you must involve the reader. Then we are going to look at features and the law. Features and the law, and features headline. How should they be? The features headline. Remember, people don't like reading nowadays. Watu hawapendi kusoma. Ile kitu inafanya mtu anasoma is the sub-editor becoming what we call more creative in coming up with a headline that will attract you to read. Like when I join your WhatsApp group, when I look at the things that you have written, some of them I just skim them. But when I see an article that has been shared and has a very nice headline, chances are I'll open it and read it. Yes, so that's how it is. So we are going to look at features headline. The next thing, which is topic 10 and 11, we are going to look at editorial production. Here we look at the introduction. We are going to look at creating news. How do you create news? We will look at sources of news. Where do you get news? Remember, we are in the 21st century. We will look at electronic newsroom desk. We need to look at the electronic newsroom desk. Nowadays, the way the newspaper is written is not like Kitambo. So we look at that. We will look at measuring news. When you're talking about measuring news, we are saying, how do you determine that this is newsworthy and this one is not newsworthy? What criteria do you use to do what? To determine that this is news and this other one is not news. And the other topic is, we are going to look at reason why the story is rejected. Can you give me one reason why your story might be rejected as an editor, as a writer, or as a reporter?
The reporter.
As a reporter, why, or what might make your story to be rejected by the editor?
There may be a more important. There may be a more important story than yours. Yeah, by another writer. Also, it might not be that interesting. And also, it may be redundant. Redundancy. Yes.
And there are so many reasons as to why your story might be rejected. Number one, if it is defamatory. If your story is defamatory, it can be rejected. Again, your story might be the one taking the, maybe taking, it is the one taking the topmost part of the newspaper. Then in the course of the day, a very important news story comes up. So it is overtaken by the most important. So if we have most important news coming up, yours become least. To some extent, it might be not rejected, but it might be put aside. So one reason is that, is the legal reason. Maybe it is defamatory, maybe it is contempting the court, maybe your story is it is not fit. It is not fit. Or maybe your story has got what we call errors. Errors, grammatical errors, spelling errors, mistakes, etc., etc. That one can make your stories to be rejected. Or maybe your headline does not go hand in hand with your story. Those things can make your stories to be rejected. Then we will look at what we call the news patterns and the production startup. Then from there, the teaching methodologies are just the same as those ones that we observed in newspaper, on the newspaper. And then the assessment criteria is the same, but the books are not the same.
Okay. Okay, what are those visual aids?
Visual aids.
Visual aids.
Visual aids are usually things that the learner can see. Like for example, flip charts. So unajua flip charts, ile mtu anaandikanga anaiweka kando. As in inakaa unaifungua hivi, then you write.
Yes.
Those are visual aids. We can also have something like a smartboard. A smartboard is a visual aid. Anything that visual aid means something that helps you to see. An aid is something that helps. So a visual aid is something that helps you to see. That helps the lecturer to demonstrate to the student, and the student is able to see. Like for example, we talked about the whiteboard, the one that I've just shared there. This is a visual aid for the student. Unaona hiyo?
Yes.
Television is a visual aid. Newspaper is a visual aid.
Yes.
There are things that helps the learner to see what the teacher is demonstrating. We usually call them visual aids.
Yes.
So those are the books. Those are the books that you're supposed to go to the library, read before the lecturer. If you have any question,
yes,
you can ask about the books and everything. Kuna swali?
No question.
Can we go to topic 1? We go very fast.
Yes.
Ama tukutane next week.
Can just go through very fast.
Let's look at our notes very fast. So our topic 1 is what we call writing headlines. I'm talking to you.
Yes.
And we are focusing, as far as introduction is concerned, is that it focuses on the importance of headlines. It focuses on the importance of headlines, the roles of headlines, and the factors to keep in mind while writing headlines. So we are looking at the role of headlines, the writing techniques of the headline, because the headline has to be eye-catching. Remember what we said when I was introducing you to the course outline and the factors to bear in mind when writing headlines. So what are the objectives of this course? Number one, you must be able to define the term sub-editing and state its importance. What is sub-editing? What is the importance of sub-editing? You must also be able to explain the role of headlines, the role headlines plays in a newspaper. You have to outline the techniques involved in writing an eye-catching headline and appreciate the factors to bear in mind while writing headlines. So what is editing? Actually, editing is the removal of addition of material in a story. You remove additional materials that are not adding anything to your writing. For example, umeandika story kuhusu floods that are happening in Kenya. You are writing a story about the floods. You see, you realize that you put a lot of information there. So you need to remove, and you realize that there is a lot of information you're going to put there. Some of them are very important and some of them are less important, or you keep on repeating yourself. So the removal of those unwanted or additional material in a story is what we call editing. So there is what we call a writing headline. So when you're writing headline, you must be very keen. You must put your thoughts together and concentrate. First of all, you look at what you have written. Whenever you are writing a headline, you don't start a story by writing a headline first. You first of all write the story, then you write the headline. Why is it like that? It is like that because lazima wewe mwenye umeandika story, usome hiyo story uielewe vizuri, then uipatie headline. So that's how it is. So we need a lot of concentration on the material that has been presented to us. So who gives a story the headline? It is the sub-editors and his team that do what? That gives a story the headline. So wewe kama journalist utapresent information yako kwa the media house. Now the media house, akina editors na akina sub-editors, they will read your story and then they will put a headline. They might as well tell you to do what? Ipatie headline. Tutaedit your headline yako. So they might edit your headline and it becomes something else because that is their work. So they read your story.
What if? What if you are a journalist? Let's say you're a freelance journalist. You're just sending a story. Do you have to write the headline and just send it to any media station?
You are a freelance journalist.
Yes.
Now what happens?
You don't work for that company.
What happens? It is always good to give your story a headline. But now, the person you are selling the story might change that headline. But if it is nice, he might also retain that headline. But headline kwa newsroom ama kwa newspaper huwa zinapewa news or that copy after they have read they have read the content. Actually, headline is one of the most difficult things, kuandika headline in the newspaper, to just give it a headline, because they know if we give it a very wrong headline, this story might not sell. If we give it a very juicy headline, this story will sell. Sijui kama umewahi kusoma newspaper, iko na very nice headline, but when you read the content, you realize that ni kama wamekuchezea mchezo. A very good newspaper is Citizen. Kuna karatasi newspaper inaitwa Citizen. hiyo newspaper ukinunua utapata ya kwamba it has very nice headlines, but when you read through you find that these people have said nothing about, and the reason why is because they want to attract the readers and sell more copies and make profit. So definition of a headline. Here we are saying that a headline is basically a statement with a verb and a subject that helps to define what the story is all about. A headline is basically a statement with a verb. A verb is a doing word or a word that shows an action. And a subject. A subject is what you are talking about. For example, David is writing. Writing is a verb. David is the subject. Tumeelewana? Writing is a verb.
Yes.
David is a subject. So a headline is basically a statement with a verb and a subject, which defines or which helps to define what the story is all about. So what are the importance of a headline, or what are the functions of the headline? It drives the readers to the content of the story. If you write a very bad headline, the reader will not buy that story, will not buy that newspaper. If you write a very good headline, the reader will be lured or will be forced, not say forced, but the reader will be attracted to the story and will be able to buy it. It forms part of the visual patterns of the page. Before you buy the newspaper, the first thing that you usually see is the headline, because it forms that visual part of the page. And then it helps summarize the story. Another thing that I usually tell my students, afadhali ununue newspaper, usome two headlines. Like a headline can read, the president is dead. Sasa wewe mwenye umesoma headline na mwenye umesoma headline na mwenye hajaona newspaper ya leo, nyinyi ni tofauti sana. Wewe tayari unajua the president is dead. The only thing that you don't know is how, when, you know what, the president is dead. You know when, no, you don't know when, where, what, how, and why. Hizo haujui, but you know what happened. The president is dead. Somebody else who did not see the newspaper cannot say anything. Atakuwa tu hapo anamwambia, hey, the president is dead. So you are totally different people. So the best thing to summarize a newspaper, let me tell you, you can read the headline first, you read the headline and the lead. And the last part of the newspaper, your conclusion, you are good to go. The whole story uko nayo kwa fingertips. So factors to put in mind while writing headlines. Number one, you have to put in mind the words that you are using. Remember, words are very sensitive. Remember not to use jargons, because in a newspaper, that is not where you show others how much or how good you are in English. You use the simplest English possible. You must be very clear, and you must be in a position to do what? To just put yourself in the shoes of the reader. If I was a reader reading this particular story, what would I understand? Also, here you are being told, in choosing of headlines, words, check out the legality, fact, and accuracy. That's the key thing. That when you're choosing the words, check out the facts and the accuracy of the words. The next point is the subject. Choose your subject clearly. The subject is what you're talking about. If you're talking about floods, if you're talking about the president, if you're talking about the pandemic, if you're talking about the rapist, if you're talking about the judge, if you're talking about the economy, choose your subject clearly. Remember that the headline has to have what? It needs to have a subject and a verb. The subject is what you're talking about. Like if you're talking about the president becomes the subject. If you're talking about the judge becomes the subject. And the verb is the doing word. Like when you say the president is dead. So we have the subject being the president, and the verb is dead. Like for example, we have been given an example here. The president arrives. So the president becomes what? The subject. Arrives becomes the verb. As simple as that. Always make sure that when you are writing a headline, it has a subject. Because we have defined a headline like, acha turudi mahali tumedefine headline. Tumesema it is a statement with a verb and a subject that helps to define what the story is all about. So therefore your headline must have a verb and a subject. Let's look at something else. This statement. 56 die in bus crash. They die, 56 die. You see, they have not used the word dead. No, they have not used the word died. They've not used past tense. Talking about active voice, 56 die in bus crash. So make sure that you are very keen when you're selecting your subject. Let me give you an example. Suppose I have selected my subject to be the president and somebody else has selected his subject to be Governor Waititu, the former governor of Kiambu, Waititu. Maybe Nation have decided to put their subject, their headline, wameandika kuhusu the president. And Standard wameamua kuandika kuhusu Waititu. Which newspaper will be bought? Ni gani itanunuliwa sana?
The one with the president headline.
Yeah, the one with the president, because the subject is very important. So we also have the verb. Verb is a doing word or a word that shows an action. So ensure that also you select your verb, a very strong verb, not just a verb. You have been given an example there, like for example, Hurricane Katrina pounds Dallas. It has more immediacy than Dallas is pounded by Hurricane Katrina. It is just like saying President Uhuru Kenyatta donates 5 million to the pandemic. And then you reverse the story. Or we can actually put it like this. the president or Uhuru Kenyatta has visited the sick, has visited the sick or something like that, has visited the sick or visits the sick at Kenyatta National Hospital. You see, that one is more impactful. President Uhuru Kenyatta visits the sick at Kenyatta National Hospital, as opposed to the sick at Kenyatta National Hospital have been visited or visited by have been visited by Uhuru Kenyatta. You see, when you start with the president, when you start with the floods, that one is more impactful than when you start it the other way around. Also, the other thing to note is symbols. And a symbol is the technique in a headline writing that the sub-editor uses to make the story more imaginable for the reader. We've been given an example, like for example, lame minister comes home. I don't know that you understand this.
I understand.
Now, when they're talking about lame minister comes home, this does not necessarily mean that this minister is incapacitated, physically incapacitated.
Yes.
Wanaweza kuwa wanamaanisha huyu ni minister mwenye ako tu, hakuna kitu huwa anafanya. Because when you are lame, you cannot do anything. So they might be talking about a minister that does not do anything. He's a minister, but he doesn't do anything. He's dormant. So this one is symbolism. So we are symbolizing. We are actually giving him a symbol of being lame. We can even say the dump minister comes home. Si kumaanisha ya kwamba hawezi ongea. Huyo minister huwa anaongea, but when it comes to his ministry and his work, that person does not talk. He keeps quiet. So that is what it means. Symbols. We call them symbolism. Zile tulikuwa tunatumia tukifanya literature. Rather you used them. Ulitumia hizo?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we have also been given another example here, symbolizing, for example, Mathare FC bottled by Tusker FC. Bottled by Tusker FC. Umeona hiyo symbol?
Yes.
Symbol, they have, it shows that you can actually see Tusker FC. Tusker FC, Tusker, they are talking about Tusker EABL. So wanajaribu kukuambia Mathare FC walishinda Tusker. So bottled has been used there as a symbol. And this actually shows that they were able to defeat the Tusker FC.
It is the other way around.
Huh?
I think it's the other way around.
No, it is okay. It is like that. It is like that. Yeah, also you can put it the other way around. Tusker FC, we can actually put it Tusker FC. Can you put it the other way around?
Explaining.
It is not making sense, eh?
No, the way you're explaining, you've explained the other way. Tusker were the ones who won.
No, I don't think so. Let's put it the other way around. Can you put it the other way around? No, the way I have explained, it is Tusker who won.
Yeah, the way I have explained. Yes, it's supposed to be Tusker.
Oh yeah. It shows the superiority that Tusker FC has over Mathare United. Yeah, it is Tusker that has won. So wamerushwa kwa chupa, ni kama wanasema hivyo walipigwa.
Yes, Mathare.
Yeah, I think so. So you can use what we call the symbols. And then accuracy is another factor that you should consider. So when you're talking about accuracy, ensure that you have the facts, that you have the facts with you, and also punctuation. Punctuate your headline nicely. Punctuation means being able to put the punctuation marks where they are supposed to be put, etc. And when you're talking about punctuation, we have the functions of a colon, exclamation mark, quotation marks, etc., etc. I'm jumping all that. So things to avoid. Avoid headline with the words no, nothing. Actually, in short, unaambiwa avoid the headlines ambazo ziko na negative things, ambazo zinaanza na negatives. Nobody died in an accident. No, don't start. That one will not attract anybody, because bad news is good news to the journalists, and people are interested more with the bad news than good news. Say, for example, graduation. A graduation ceremony. If you tell people that you graduated, like for example, so many people have graduated. Yes. Talk about somebody who was supposed to graduate this year, but because his name was missing in the graduation list, he decided to do what? To hang himself, or to jump from a very tall building, or actually kill himself because his name is not appearing in a graduation list. You realize that that one is more juicy than the graduation that has just happened. So avoid headlines ambazo ziko na no, nothing happened, something like that. No one died, something like that. So a sub-editor also should not repeat the words in the same headline. Like you're using the word for. Don't repeat the same words or two words that are the same in one headline. Also avoid creating unwanted events that exist in circumstances that do not exist. Like for example, you are telling us stories that are not making sense. Like people are graduating and then Jesus appeared in the between in that particular congregation, or Jesus was speaking at the pulpit or something. You see, those ones, you are creating events in circumstances that do not exist. So avoid such things. So headline typography, we said it is the arrangement of the design of the newspaper, of the headline. I can see time yetu imeisha. So mimi nitakuacha usome headline typography so that next week we start on but we can go through it very fast. So this is all about the layout of headlines. The layout of headlines. It is also referred to as a deck. So the layout of a headline is also referred to as a deck. And it can have various what we call lines depending on its width or measure and upon its shape and position on the page. The following are the various types of headlines stroke shapes. We have single column. A single column headline are usually 2 to 3 or 4 lines, but they can have as many as 6, 5 or 6. For example, you've been told schools unrest worsen as parliament goes for recess to discuss matters. So you can see this is line 1, this is line 2, but it is one sentence. This is line 3. So this one is a single column headline. Remember, it can have a maximum of 5 or 6 lines. Then we have the double column. They're usually 2 or 3 lines and of bigger type. Bigger type, we say that this type is higher, ni kubwa kuliko ingine, like that. That is of bigger type. Remember, it is 2 to 3 lines, but of bigger type than single column. This one is small type. This one is 12, and this one is 16. Then we have what we call the single line. Is there any question about the double column and the single column? Tumesema single column iko na 2 to 3 or 4 lines, but sometimes it can have 5 or 6 lines. The double column is 2 to 3 only, lakini the type is bigger than the single column. Then we have a single line. A single line is just one line of the headline, like this one. Na ina cross tu kwa page. It is across the page. And then we have the banner. The banner is an extension of the single line headline, which in this case, the headline cuts into the next page. Sijui kama umewahi kuona kitu kaa hiyo. Like for example, I don't know that I can put it in a book form. Let me, I don't know how I can put it. There is usually a headline that starts from one page, alafu inaenda mpaka page nyingine.
Oh, I've seen it, like in those relationship advices.
Yes, again, kwa graduation, kuna yes, what we call special editions za newspaper or special publications za newspaper. Like the last time we had a graduation at ZTech University, Nation newspaper was given for free. Unakumbuka hiyo time? Yes. The Nation newspaper was given for free, and there was what we call the banner, about in a run from the other page to the next page. It's a headline, but it runs across to the other page. Those ones are what we call the banners. Then we have the strip lines. The strip line is a second headline, but it is introduced from the first headline to create emphasis. Like for example, this one. Corruption fight faces a big blow. And then there is this other area after Githongo resigns. This is a strap line. Hii sasa iko hapa chini, ni strap line. That one that I'm highlighting in yellow, this is a strap line. There is the headline and there is a small explanation down. Then we have what we call the headline arrangement. In the headline arrangement, we can center our what we call the headline, put it in a center. Like for example, let me show you what we mean by center, this particular area. we can center our headline like that. Suppose that is our headline. We can center it. Or we can set it left. Left ni upande hii. Now our headline can go like that. Left alignment. Or we can set it right.
Yes.
We can set it right. That is right. I'm working with this. You can center it. You can set left and you can right. You can set it right like that. So it can be like that. Then like this one, set right is this one. Yuka unaona hii. Yeah, this one is imesetiwa. This one imesetiwa left. This one has been set right. This one is center arrangement. This one is center arrangement. Or you can simply put it like this. No, yeah, that one is okay. Evo. So I want you to go and read on the headline creativity. That is spacing and actually it is spacing only. Spacing only. Unless there is a question up to that point, your topic tumemaliza. I've tried to go very fast because I think the reason why I'm going very fast is because last time you missed a class. So we had to be, this is week 2. And we are supposed to have covered week 1 and week 2. So when we come next week, we will cover topic 2. By that, it means that we are on the right track. Kuna swali?
Hakuna swali.
So I will stop at that point. I need to tick your register that you are present.
Yes.
So wacha niende mpaka kwa register ni kutik ulikuwa present before I forget. I was about to forget the other one. Let me go to the register and tick you present as you see. Attendance. I hope you can see that.
Yes.
We call it a day. So the next time we meet, nitakufungulia notes za week what. This is sub-editing. I'll open notes on week 2 so that you download them and read them on before the time, before we. Next time we meet. So you are present, nimesha kutik kwa register. So your class tumemaliza hivyo. So tuonane next week unless kuna swali ama kuna clarification yoyote unataka. Sawa sawa, siku njema.
Okay, notes. Yes.
Notes.
Okay, notes. Yes.
Notes acha niangalie kama nimezifungulia. Let me see whether I have opened it. The consultant is opened. Let me open the notes. Topic 1, writing headlines. Ndio hiyo nafungulia ukiona. Now you can download your notes. Si umeona nimekufungulia? Here they are. You can download them. Haya, enjoy your day. Thank you for your patience. You have been very patient for how many hours? For 6 hours.
Yes.
Sawa sawa.
Okay.